Well, good morning, everybody. It is August 1st. How about that, huh? August 1st already. A lot of people are heading back to school. We know that. Good luck this year. Have a good year, everybody. Others are in the middle of their vacation, dreading the day I say this to them that it's time to go back to school. Okay, but it's going to happen to all of us and to all the folks in the South and West and wherever you might be heading back. Have a great year. My name's Larry Jacobs. This is Pre-K-12 Education Talk Radio, and we've got some great shows lined up for you all in August and September and throughout the whole school year. And today we're going to talk about artificial intelligence, AI. I've got my old good friend from a company that really deals with this every day, Patty West Smith, is going to be with us in just a few minutes. She is she's a 20-year veteran educator, and she's Senior Director of Customer Engagement at Turnitin. And I'll call Turnitin the company, the plagiarism company. And, of course, plagiarism and all that sort of stuff is on everybody's mind with AI. And they've been thinking a lot about it and doing a lot about it. They have created some new products, some new protocols, et cetera, over at Turnitin, which is just like it sounds, Turnitin, one word. .com, and they were on a few months ago just talking about all the things they're doing and testing it and all that sort of stuff. Patty's going to take us a little bit further today, and I tell you can depend on them. We'll see what Patty has to say. We're going to archive the show over at ace-ed.org. That's the home website of our American Consortium for Equity in Education. Please go over and check out everything we do over there. It's free for educators at ace-ed.org. This podcast will be archived over there. Every podcast we've done is archived over there. Our magazine, we're putting together a new issue of Equity and Access, our online journal, and that will be up pretty soon up there. But the issue that we have now, if you haven't seen it, just click on the cover. It's really a nice issue. The next one's going to be even better. Each one is progressively better as we do it, plus a ton of information out there, especially about our Excellence in Equity Awards. All right, that's coming up. We want you to get involved in that. Please click through on that link over there, and you'll see all the stuff we're doing with that. We want you involved. It's free for educators. Companies are involved, et cetera. Go over there. What you're doing for equity, you, your colleagues, your school, companies you love, et cetera, et cetera. You'll see how the nominations go. We get tons of nominations all the time, and we want to honor those great educators who are doing so much for equity every day, especially in this day and age. So please check it all out at ace-ed.org. And now from the great state of Maine, where I am, we're going down to the even greater state of Delaware. Hi, Patty.
Hi, Larry. How are you?
I'm fine. How you doing these days?
I am great. Things are busy. It's back to school season.
Yeah, it is. It is, and Turnitin. And I don't know what you would call. I always think of Turnitin. I think a lot of people do is to quote the plagiarism company. Is that a good way to say it? How do you guys like to say it? Turnitin.
So I'll tell you the truth, Larry. I avoid saying the plagiarism company for one thing because it does have some really negative connotations that I don't think anybody loves. I like to think of it as the academic integrity company.
There you go. See? I see the glass half empty. I see the glass half empty, and you see the glass half full. Okay?
It's
the academic. There you go. The academic integrity company. I love it. Turnitin.com. Is AI coming up a lot in conversation? And it must be. You're Senior Director of Customer Engagement. Okay, I think the AI thing is on everybody's mind. And actually, I should ask you this question. Do you believe that by the end of the year, the robots will take over the control of the earth and the machines will start picking off humans like in Terminator 3, which I hope does not turn out to be a documentary?
Yeah, I knew I was talking to you today, Larry. So this morning I consulted my crystal ball.
Yes.
It turns out the robots are not going to take our jobs because the robots are exceptionally average. As my friend Eric Wang, who's our vice president of artificial intelligence, likes to say, or if you put it in the words that my teenage son uses, Mom, what ChatGPT turns out is kind of meh. And I think that's pretty accurate. I think that's pretty accurate today.
It's the era.
Yeah, absolutely.
Good.
Yeah.
Okay. By the way, I have news for you. Eric is actually a robot. Okay, Eric Lang. Just so you know that. The word's getting
I
around
don't
there.
usually check behind his ear to see if there's any
he's plugged
chips
in.
or anything.
He doesn't. If anybody knows, he doesn't drive to work. He's just plugged in by someone. I think Ian during the day, and he works all day, and then that's it. So don't take anything he says on this. He's doing well too. Okay. Okay. So all that said, and hopefully it's going to work out just fine. What are you hearing from educators out there? What's their outlook on AI? I know some of them. I'm going to use this word. Are scared of it. That the kids are really going to, quote, use it to cheat. But frankly, they could do that with Wikipedia tomorrow afternoon. Okay?
Yep.
And, and AI is going to get better. It is going to get better. We all know that. Okay? But what are you hearing as and we are literally entering an era. So what are you hearing from your customers about this? And you can talk about higher ed as well. We're K-12, but I want to hear what you're hearing from higher ed as well.
So I think you're right, Larry. I think this is the absolutely the era of AI, and especially AI generative tools. Because AI has been around for quite some time and it's been built into lots of products, but it is the AI generative tools that can actually produce content, whether that's writing or images. But the AI generative tools are definitely taking center stage right now, and I do think that they are going to shake up a lot of things. Worldwide, across every industry, there will be impacts, and certainly those impacts will be felt in education. I think the way that teachers are talking to us right now is that it's an evolving response, right? So I think the earliest days, right? So I think ChatGPT came out sometime around November 30th, right? Not a great time
I don't know, but I would imagine so. Yeah, it's amazing. Yeah. It's an amazing thing. It is.
And that was not the time of year where teachers were necessarily paying attention to a new tech tool, right? Because that's a crazy time of year for teachers, especially in North America. But as time went on, they started to hear more and see more signs that that this was a real sort of disruptor for education. And the initial stage, I would say the first 90 to 120 days is what I like to call the Chicken Little response, where everyone was terrified and the sky was falling. Yeah. And teachers were going to be replaced, and we should never use writing again in education. So you were seeing things like that, like headlines that were like, "Is the essay dead?" Real doom and gloom kind of stuff. And then, as they do, teachers started digging in. They started testing. They started figuring things out. And I think we are now in a stage where people are saying, okay, we have to put some guardrails in place because there are things to be concerned about, but there's also potential here. So I wrote a post that I think I called.
Yes, keep talking into your phone or microphone, whatever you're using, but you're turning your head, and I can hear it fades every so often, and I want people to be able to hear you, Patty.
I apologize, Larry. I'm animated in my talking, so I've got my hand raised.
I know. I know. It takes a while to build up the habit. Okay,
it really
I have done it, but it takes a long time. So no apology necessary. I just want people to be able to hear you.
So I think now we're in the stage where people are saying, okay, here are the challenges, and are starting to really develop their methods for responding to those challenges. And then here's the potential, right? So here's the promise that exists. And then I think there's a third category that often gets overlooked, and that is the responsibility for educators. And I think this space of dealing with those three fronts is where we are right now. And I think we're in a wonderful moment because, summer is that time where teachers kind of reboot. They reflect on what they've done, and then they try to come up with new ways that they're going to go into this new school year. And I think with AI in particular, a lot of work has been done this summer to educate themselves and to prepare for this sort of new threat, as well as the promise and responsibility that comes along with AI generative tools.
Right. To me, it's something. And Patty, as you were talking, it brought up something in my head. I remember when a 4-function calculator came out. That would have been about 1970. maybe 71. Okay, and it was like a miracle, and they cost $100 for a four function calculator. Okay, and everybody liked it, but math teachers hated it because they were worried that here's a new era, and everybody can cheat. All right. And that blah, blah, blah. And, of course, that did not happen. When the calculators today are absolutely amazing. But it's just a new tool that allows people to do something a bit quicker than they used to, and perhaps sometimes more accurately, or at least double-check, etc. And eventually, educators learn to work with it and use it as a teaching tool. All right? And because everybody, when you go to work, you use the easiest and fastest thing. Okay, when you go and take a job in the world, you're not going to work out the 30,000 numbers by pencil. You're going to use your calculator. Okay, that's it.
I think, Larry, you made a good point there, and you used a really critical word, which is tool, right? And every tool that exists has the potential for use and misuse. And I think that's where we are, is really figuring out what is acceptable use and what is misuse. And that, I think, is going to be the theme of this school year, in terms of educators really helping students and other stakeholders, parents, community members, understand what is acceptable use and what is misuse of those tools. I think that's where we are going into this school year. And I think it's really exciting. I know it's scary. I realize that. Don't get me wrong. But I also think there's a lot
Scary's
of
fun. People love horror movies. Scary's fun.
That's true. People do love horror movies.
Yeah. It makes, so where is Turnitin on all this right now? And I know you guys were designing tools, your own tools, to help educators figure out how to work with the AI, and B, how to detect it. Okay, and again, there may be nothing wrong with using it. Okay, if a kid uses it well as a tool. Okay, that's simple. But I'm curious, where's Turnitin on all this right now? And I know they've got you and Ian on the team, so you guys must be thinking it through a lot.
Absolutely, I think everybody at Turnitin is thinking about AI pretty frequently. For me, it's kind of all day, every day. It is absolutely my main front. My role at Turnitin, the easiest way for me to explain it is that it's my job to speak to and for teachers at the company, and the same for students, right? Like I'm like an
ombudsman. You're like an ombudsman for the profession.
I try to be. That's the role I try to serve.
Well, you are. You are, Patty.
Thank you.
You care about them.
So what we did, in April, we released a preview of our AI indicator. And so what the indicator does is it gives teachers insight into the likelihood that AI tools were used. And there's a very sophisticated algorithm and lots of math and machine learning and artificial intelligence that's powering that. And I know Eric has been on to talk with your audience about that in the past, and he's the technical expert. My job has been with my team, is to really work to provide resources for educators and to be a thought leader in this space to say, okay, how do we talk to students about this? What do we do with our assignments? How do we change our process for teaching writing? How do we look at policy? What does communication look like with other stakeholders? Where's the threshold between what is acceptable use and what is misuse? And so we've been churning out resources and doing interviews and writing blogs and white papers and doing research and conducting surveys to make sure that we are partnering right now and supporting educators as they're trying to figure all of this out. So even before the indicator came out, my team had been putting out resources to say, okay, some writing assignments are particularly vulnerable to AI misuse. How can you change your assignment or change your approach to your assignment in a way that's going to make it less vulnerable to misuse? So we put together some rubrics.
Can you give an example of that? Can you give an example of that as you thought this through? What would be a good example of a writing project that you could talk about the AI on it? Go ahead.
Absolutely, right? So when we ask students to write inauthentically, and it's a lot of sort of literal, for lack of a better word, regurgitation of, is incredibly vulnerable to AI misuse, right?
No, you read my term papers, Patty. You read my term papers.
You should have been in my class, Larry. I didn't do stuff like that.
I should have. I should have been. You're right.
So when you use an assignment that you've been using for 20 years and there's one right answer to it and it's going to summarize or regurgitate factual information, it doesn't have room for student voice and reflection. It doesn't require high-level critical thinking and reasoning. When you when you aren't requiring sources or citations, when you aren't looking to personalize the task to the student, when you don't call out the parameters around what is or is not ethical use of AI in the assignment, and you just leave that open to interpretation, all of those things make a writing assignment more vulnerable to AI misuse. So we literally put together a rubric that teachers can use to evaluate their own writing prompt or their own writing assignment to say, how vulnerable is this writing prompt to AI misuse? And that's been really powerful because it forces them to think about.
It puts the onus on the educator. It puts the onus on the educator, which is great. They're the adult in the room. If I'm reading you right, than it does on the kids. It's like you got to assign the thing that nails this. I love that.
It also empowers them, Larry, right? It also empowers them to say, I am not a victim to AI tools. There are things I can do to protect academic integrity in my assignments and assessments. And I think that's a very empowering way to think about it, to say, you can protect your classroom, protect the academic integrity of the work you're asking your students to do by revising and adjusting the actual writing assignments you're giving students so that they're less vulnerable to those 9 at night panic moments where students are like, oh my God, I didn't do this, and they just hit that button and want to turn it in. So there are very clear methods. Yep.
To turn it in pun. Yeah.
I like to throw those out there whenever I can, Larry.
You did. You did a good job. I did pick up on it, okay? It was good. No pun intended, but it is that pressure mounts, okay, and you got to do it. But I love the way you're thinking here. And the thinking, okay, is to teach the educator to use it. It's their responsibility to use it correctly. And again, we can go back to the calculator, okay? Right. It's the teacher's responsibility. People are going to be using these tools. These kids are going to graduate school, go into whatever profession they use, okay? And in the college or whatever, they're going to use these tools, okay? Helping them to understand the tools, okay, can be part of an educator's job. Okay, because this is the future.
This goes to what I referred to earlier as what I consider the responsibility of educators in this new era, right? We have to teach students what is ethical, what is not ethical, what the benefits of AI tools are, and what the drawbacks are, what you have to be careful about. If we don't teach students that, we are not preparing them for the world that they are going to live in. And so we have... That's why I have such a concern when I hear about bans on AI generative tools. I understand the reaction. I think it's coming out of that Chicken Little moment that I talked about. To just say, nope, you can't use them at all, right? But the problem with that is that we are then not educating students to use the tools that they will have to use. I mean, it would be like not teaching a construction worker how to use a hammer. You just can't do it.
Or if I may, let's go back to this other one. Could you imagine if schools today did not teach kids how to use a calculator? Everybody uses the calculator every day.
Absolutely, 100%.
It's not a cheat,
right?
It's not a cheat.
And there is an equity issue here too, and I know this is something both of us are very passionate about. We've talked about it before with rubrics and feedback. And so here's what happens when you put a ban in place. when you put a ban in place, you stop the tools from being used instructionally. You stop the tools from being used by all students in a controlled environment with guardrails in place. And instead, you open it up to students to figure it out on their own, which is always scary. And think about what happens. You've got, so there are free AI generative tools out there, right? But then there are the paid versions, and they're faster and they're slicker and they're adding features to them. Who's going to have access to those, Larry? If schools take away access to students, the people who will have access to those are wealthy people who can pay for those subscriptions. So we're getting into a cycle where, once again, the privileged will be privileged more by our actions if we're not careful. It will widen the digital divide. It will widen the gap between the haves and the have-nots in terms of the technology they have available to them. And that means that you are potentially taking a generation of students and taking away from them access to the tools that will help them be successful in the world that they're entering. And I have a huge problem with that when it comes to equity, because we know who's hurt by that.
Yeah, as always. And I hadn't thought of it like that, but it really is a situation that demands some evaluation before we get into it. We gotta get every kid, and it should, if it works out right, it should help the equity situation, because it allows everybody to access this, if I may, the same type of information, the same type of usefulness. I mean, it's just that simple. You mentioned before you put together rubrics that help educators decide how to, where is that? And let me ask the question, how are you planning for teachers to use Turnitin's products, which they're familiar with? Okay, in terms of the rubric, et cetera, how do they access what you guys are doing? Help me out with that. What is the actual thing that you're doing, and how's it helping everybody? How do they get to it?
Okay, so there are a number of ways you can get to these resources and that you can access what Turnitin is doing in this moment. First, obviously, is inside our products. If you're a Turnitin user, then inside your product today, there's a preview that gives you access to the AI indicator. It's today available in all our products as a preview because it was such an urgent situation. In the future, obviously, it will be, it's a thing you have to pay for. It is a software company. So that's the future. But you can access it there. And then right inside the product, we have links to the rubric I mentioned so that you can evaluate your prompt right while you're in Turnitin, setting up your assignments. We also have access to other resources about AI generative tools, some that are really just general to hear, like a sort of a hot list of resources where you can go and read and learn more about these tools if you haven't done that work yet. Again, available right inside our product. And then one I'm really excited about is, in addition to the rubric, we have a checklist that is more designed to evaluate the process you use. So, for example, excuse me, if you are using the writing process and you have students brainstorming and you have them drafting and you have them writing conferences and doing peer review, each one of those moments in the process becomes almost a checkpoint where you can see the work actually developing and evolving over time. And we know that is a far more, that is far less vulnerable to AI misuse. Because, again, the use case that really pops up is that it's the last minute. I'm going to pop this into ChatGPT just so I have something to turn in. See, I did it again, turn it in. But if you are using the writing process along the way, then you are a lot less vulnerable. So we also have a resource that walks you through that in the product. All of those resources are also available on our website, not behind a paywall, available to everyone. You can go to Turnitin.com, and there's a dedicated landing page for academic integrity resources. I think Ian probably shared that with you. Larry.
Yes, you did. You did, but not everybody listens to every show.
Nope.
And I want to make sure that
true.
as we're talking, they're listening to this one, okay?
Yeah,
and or hear it again. It never hurts. It never hurts to say it twice. Okay.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah. To get people, especially now that they're excited and getting back to school. It brought up something in my mind a minute ago. All right. A lot of this is available to your customers. All right.
Mm-hmm.
And believe me, I know you guys know how to build customers. I certainly am not trying to do that. But is there going to be for any school or district or whatever, and this is, I think, is a good idea, professional development to teach it for you, turn it in, regardless of if they were a customer or not, and people can pay for this or whatever. You go into a school district and tell them all these things we're talking about today, how to use and teach in an era of AI. And not only would that be a boon to educators everywhere, but it would build you guys 1,000 new clients. Okay? And, PD's hot these days. Now, just curious, is there going to be a way to do that? How's that going to work, if it's possible? So
one of the
it's a good idea. I just had to share it with you, Patty, because what you're saying is so insightful.
I'm gonna work that into my business plan. I appreciate you, Larry, thinking about me. So look, we are doing some very specific things. First, we are offering workshops for our customers.
I figured.
Sometimes as part of their just normal onboarding process, and sometimes, we have longtime customers who are asking for a special session. We're doing all of that work. We're also going to events. Recently, my friend Ian and one of the members of my team, who's a longtime veteran educator, went to ISTE. And they had presentations in the booth. Those were available to everybody, right? The resources available to everybody, customer, and it doesn't matter. Same thing for the resources on the website. We're also hosting public webinars. Sorry, I haven't done it again.
That's okay. I hope your throat's all right. And this is what I'm talking about, public webinars.
Yeah.
So that's what I mean.
We are. We have one coming up in September. I'll be leading that one myself. And it's all about the things that you and I are talking about today. Like, what do we say to students about this? How do we set our policies? How do we communicate with parents? What kind of activities do we actually do with students to teach them what they can and cannot do? Because here's the thing I say all the time, Larry. I'm probably plagiarizing myself now. But a thing that I say all the time
I think you can do that. That's okay. I don't think you can plagiarize yourself.
You have to cite yourself. So I'm citing myself here. As Patty Weston said, the reality is if we leave gaps for students, they will fill them in for themselves, and they will almost never fill them in the same way that we would want them to understand an idea. So we have to do the work of not just talking to them about AI, but teaching them about AI. And so my team has been building instructional activities. We're building slide decks that educational leaders and administrators can use with their teachers to lead a professional development. So for me, it's not just about us doing the workshop, right? Because that's not scalable. There are only so many hours in the day. I can't do every workshop around the world. But what we can do is give resources to teacher leaders, to admins, to instructional leaders, so that they can work with their teachers, so that teachers can use these resources in PLCs and work together as collaborative teams.
Exactly.
Right? So we've built, on that same website of resources, you'll find that there's a whole section of professional learning resources that are designed to empower every educational leader to be walking their staff through what it means to have AI generative tools in the classroom, how to use them, how not to use them, how to talk about them. We have been, I can't tell you, we're like little elves working round the clock to create these resources.
Right. I got to tell you, and Patty, I know you can't do live every webinar, but I want you to try to get the one in Hawaii in February. Okay, try for that one. Just get that one.
Let me check my calendar, Larry. I think I'm available for Hawaii in February.
You'll need your family to help you with all the equipment. Okay,
probably.
So just
do that.
They
there to help hook up my laptop.
Yeah. Don't worry about the one in Chechnya. Don't worry about that one. Okay, just do the Hawaii one. You'll be You'll be good.
You're
Patty,
always
this
looking
was
out
great.
for me, Larry.
I am. I'm always looking out for you. And I love the idea of plagiarizing yourself. As a speech in Shakespeare, Mark Antony said, and let me quote Mark Antony when I said, friends, Roman customers, lend me your ears. Friends, Romans, and customers, lend me your ears. There's a good line for you.
Lend me your ears. Okay. That's my line. Friends, Romans, customers, lend me your ears.
There you go. Okay. This is great stuff. Patty, I know you guys are on top of this. Okay. And teachers have to be on top of it, and your insight about laying the responsibility on the teacher to teach the kids to use it right, not to worry about the kids cheating on it. Okay, that's irrelevant. Yeah. Okay, it's upon us. It's here, and social media started off as nothing, and now it's everywhere. It's pervasive, obviously, as we all know, everywhere. This is going to be the same thing. It's just now starting to burst through the egg. And I'll tell you, the insights you have are terrific. And eventually it will be Godzilla coming out of that egg. But that's okay. He may be a friend. That's what we got to do, make Godzilla a friend. Patty, thanks a million. And I'll just ask, are you enjoying the beaches in Delaware this summer?
Oh, I always enjoy the beach in Delaware, but
Good.
It's hard to get away from the tourists.
It is. A buddy of mine just said he's down there for a week, literally got there yesterday. Okay, in Rehoboth. Yeah. So there you go. What can I tell you? It's like Maine. It's like Maine here. In the summer, it's all, which is fine. We love them. It's all tourists. Okay, and it's good for the state. You got it, Patty. Thanks a million. We'll do more. And by the way, I'll just say this, and I know Ian will listen to this. Both of you want to get together. You have the you have a webinar coming up in September, and if you want to do a podcast before or after that. Okay, whichever makes sense. One of you get back to me on that one. Okay.
All right, Larry. I love that.
Okay.
Thank you.
You're always welcome here. Okay, Patty. Thanks a million. Okay. Have a good day.
Thanks,
Enjoy
Larry.
this beautiful weather. Okay, everybody. That's Patty West Smith, good friend, great guest from Turnitin.com. You heard it all. Okay, it's really good stuff. They are not the plagiarism company. They are the academic integrity company. There you go. I love working with that company. All right, and you will too. Please check it out, Turnitin.com. We'll archive at ace-ed.org. And if you want to get in touch with me, it's Larry at ace-ed.org on email. I am Larry Jacobs. Thanks for listening.